CertPunch practice round for AWS Certified Security, specialty, 12 questions. Read the prompt, choose the best answer before the reveal, then listen for the exam logic behind it. Let's begin. Question 1 of 12. A company has a serverless application that is accessed by internal users. The application consists of an AWS Lambda function that accesses an Amazon DynamoDB table. The security team are concerned that the Lambda function has internet access, and the endpoints for Lambda and DynamoDB are both public. How can a security engineer improve the security of the application? Select 2. Option A, configure the Lambda function to connect to private subnets in an Amazon VPC. Option B, configure a VPC endpoint for accessing the DynamoDB table using private addresses. Option C, configure the DynamoDB table to connect to private subnets in an Amazon VPC. Option D, create a resource-based policy for Lambda to restrict internet access. Option E, create a resource-based policy for DynamoDB to restrict access to the Amazon VPC. Choose the best answer before the reveal. Commit to it now. The correct answers are options A and B. Exam logic. Placing Lambda in private subnets and using a VPC endpoint for DynamoDB secures the application by removing public internet access. The key is using a VPC endpoint, which is not the same as DynamoDB connecting to a subnet. Question 2 of 12. An application running on Amazon EC2 instances reads secrets stored in AWS Systems Manager Parameter Store. The application issued getParameter API calls for secure string parameters, and the calls failed. Which factors could be the cause of this failure? Select 2. Option A. Systems Manager Parameter Store does not have encrypt permissions on the AWS KMS key used to encrypt the parameter. Option B. The IAM role assigned to the EC2 instance profile does not have encrypt permissions on the AWS KMS key used to encrypt the parameter. Option C. The IAM role assigned to the EC2 instance profile does not have permissions to retrieve parameters in Systems Manager Parameter Store. Option D. Systems Manager Parameter Store does not have decrypt permissions on the AWS KMS key used to encrypt the parameter. Option E. The IAM role assigned to the EC2 instance profile does not have decrypt permissions on the AWS KMS key used to encrypt the parameter. Choose the best answer before the reveal. Commit to it now. The correct answers are option D and option E. The correct answers are options C and E. Exam logic. Reading a secure string requires SSM getParameter and KMS decrypt permissions on the IAM role. The trap is confusing who needs the KMS permission. Question 3 of 12. A website runs on Amazon EC2 instances in an auto-scaling group behind an application load balancer, ALB, which serves as an origin for an Amazon CloudFront distribution. An AWS WAF is being used to protect against SQL injection attacks. A review of security logs revealed an external malicious IP that needs to be blocked from accessing the website. What steps should be taken to protect the application? Option A. Modify the network ACL for the EC2 instances in the target groups behind the ALB to deny the malicious IP address. Option B. Modify the network ACL on the CloudFront distribution to add a deny rule for the malicious IP address. Option C. Modify the configuration of AWS WAF to add an IP match condition to block the malicious IP address. Option D. Modify the security groups for the EC2 instances in the target groups behind the ALB to deny the malicious IP address. Choose the best answer before the reveal. Commit to it now. Option C. Modify the configuration of AWS WAF to add an IP match condition to block the malicious IP address. Here are the explanations. With a public API, AWS WAF can be securely integrated with AWS resources in both internal and external networks. A WAF can be installed on API Gateway, a CloudFront distribution, an application load balancer, or an S3 bucket. A WAF can intercept A traffic before it reaches a CloudFront distribution, application load balancer, or an API gateway.
Once the WAF is installed, a WAF rule can be integrated with a mapping to add an IP match condition to block the malicious IP address.
The answer is option C. Exam logic. AWS WAF is the correct location for blocking specific IPs, as it's designed for web application firewalling. Security groups can't have deny rules, and the ALB sees traffic from the WAF, not the client's original IP address. Question 4 of 12. A company has a critical web application running on a fleet of auto-scaling Amazon EC2 instances behind an application load balancer, ALB. The ALB is associated with an AWS WAF web ACL. The security team has identified suspicious port scans coming from a specific range of internet IP addresses. A security engineer needs to block access from the identified addresses. Which solution meets these requirements? Option A. Add a rule to the ALB security group to deny incoming requests from the IP address range. Option B. Create an Amazon CloudFront distribution in front of the ALB and use geo-restrictions to block access from the IP address range. Option C. Modify the web ACL with a rate-based rule statement and a block action to deny incoming requests from the IP address range. Option D. Modify the web ACL with an IP set match rule statement and a block action to deny incoming requests from the IP address range. Choose the best answer before the reveal. Commit to it now. Correct answer is option D. Modify the web ACL with an IP set match rule statement and a block action to deny incoming requests from the IP address range. The answer is option D. Exam logic. The IP set match rule in WAF is designed specifically for blocking requests from a list of IP addresses. A rate-based rule is for throttling traffic by volume, not by source IP. Question 5 of 12. A company enforces encryption for all Amazon EBS volumes. Following security incidents, EBS snapshots sometimes need to be shared with a forensics account for analysis. The security team must ensure the volumes remain encrypted as much as possible throughout the process. Which steps are required to share the encrypted snapshots with least privilege? Option A. Share an encrypted snapshot. Use an AWS managed KMS key and allow the KMS star actions for the target account in the key policy. Option B. Share an encrypted snapshot. Use a customer managed KMS key and allow the decrypt and create grant actions for the target account in the key policy. Option C. Copy an encrypted EBS volume to the target account. Use a customer-managed KMS key and allow the encrypt, decrypt, and create grant actions in the key policy. Option D. Create an unencrypted copy of the encrypted snapshot. Share the snapshot with the target account. Encrypt the copied snapshot with a customer-managed KMS key. Choose the best answer before the reveal. Commit to it now. The answer is option B. Exam logic. Shared encrypted snapshots require a customer-managed KMS key. The key policy must grant the target account decrypt and create grant actions for re-encryption. The trap is using an AWS managed key, which cannot be shared across accounts with fine-grained permissions. Question 6 of 12. A healthcare institution has developed a cloud-based application that collects and stores confidential patient records in an Amazon DynamoDB table. They need to adopt a solution that ensures end-to-end data protection and the ability to identify any unauthorized changes to the data. What solution would cater to these needs? Option A. Use the DynamoDB encryption client for client-side encryption and to digitally sign the table items. Option B. Use the AWS encryption SDK to execute client-side encryption and to digitally sign the table items. Option C. Use an AWS Certificate Manager SSL/TLS certificate to ensure data is encrypted during transit. Option D. Use an AWS Key Management Service, AWS KMS, customer-managed key to encrypt the data at rest. Choose the best answer before the reveal. Commit to it now. Answer A. Use the DynamoDB encryption client for client-side encryption and to digitally sign the table items. The answer is option A. Exam logic. Client-side encryption with the DynamoDB encryption client provides end-to-end protection and digital signatures to detect data tampering. The trap is KMS, which only encrypts at rest and does not provide integrity checks. Question 7 of 12. A fintech company wants to shield its online banking portal from man-in-the-middle attacks, and it's using Amazon CloudFront for content delivery. What would be the most effective method to accomplish this goal with minimal administrative intervention? Option A. Create a Lambda at Edge function to include the HTTP Strict Transport Security (HSTS) response header. Option B. Use the basic CORS predefined response headers policy. Option C. Use the Content Security Policy header within a custom-made response headers policy. Option D. Use the Security Headers Policy Managed Response Headers policy. Choose the best answer before the reveal. Commit to it now. The answer is option D. Exam logic. The Security Headers Policy Managed policy enforces security best practices like HSTS with minimal overhead. The trap is using Lambda at Edge, which works but adds unnecessary complexity for a standard requirement. Question 8 of 12. An e-commerce company receives an AWS abuse notification stating that an IAM user's access key used by an inventory management system may have been compromised. The security manager needs to address the potential security breach while ensuring minimal service interruption to the inventory system. What would be the optimal strategy to address this situation? Option A. Modify the inventory management system to utilize an IAM role with identical permissions as the IAM user. Option B. Immediately delete the IAM user's access key, then produce a new access key and implement it within the inventory management system. Option C. Implement an IAM policy that terminates all sessions before the moment specified in the AWS abuse notification. Option D. Generate a new access key for the IAM user. Update the inventory management system to utilize the new access key. Subsequently, deactivate the compromised access key. Choose the best answer before the reveal. Commit to it now. The correct answer is option D. Generate a new access key for the IAM user. Update the inventory management system to utilize the new access key. Subsequently, deactivate the compromised access key. Choose the best answer before the reveal. The answer is option D. Exam logic. Generating a new key and updating the app first avoids downtime. The trap is deleting the key immediately, which would break the application until the new key is configured. Question 9 of 12. A multinational corporation has a diversified range of services deployed on Amazon EC2 instances. The company has AWS Systems Manager Agent, SSM Agent, installed on their EC2 instances and utilizes AWS Security Hub for consolidating their security alerts and findings. The company uses AWS organizations with numerous managed AWS accounts. They wish to regularly monitor their workloads for potential software vulnerabilities and unexpected network exposure. Option A. The company seeks a solution that will seamlessly deploy across all member accounts, including any future accounts, and will automatically scan new workloads as they become operational. Option B. What solution would fulfill these requirements? Option C. Establish a delegated administrator for Amazon Inspector throughout the organization and create an AWS config rule to initiate the analysis of Amazon EC2 instances. Option D. Designate a delegated administrator for Amazon Inspector for the entire organization. Set up automatic scanning for all existing and new member accounts. Option E. Appoint a delegated administrator for Amazon Guard Duty across the organization and set up an Amazon Event Bridge rule to trigger the analysis of Amazon EC2 instances. Option F. Implement service control policies, SCPs, to facilitate the scanning of EC2 instances across all organizational accounts. Choose the best answer before the reveal. Commit to it now. The answer is option D. Exam logic. Amazon Inspector is the service for vulnerability scanning. A delegated administrator automatically enables scanning across all organization accounts. Question 10 of 12. A financial institution employs an on-premises hardware security module, HSM, to generate and administer its encryption keys, according to its stringent security policies. Their transaction processing application uses Amazon RDS to store data, and all data must be encrypted at rest. A security specialist has generated an encryption key using the on-premises HSM. Option A, what should the security specialist do next to adhere to these requirements? Option B, create a new AWS managed key in AWS KMS and import the new key material. Give Amazon RDS permission to use the key. Create a new RDS instance and choose the new key as the encryption key. Migrate the data into RDS. Option C, create a new AWS managed key in AWS KMS, importing the new key material. Use the AWS SDK to integrate with AWS KMS for local data encryption using the new KMS key. Create a new RDS instance and choose the new key as the encryption key. Deactivate the KMS key following RDS instance creation. Migrate the data into RDS. Option D, create a new customer-managed key in AWS KMS and import the new key material. Provide Amazon RDS permissions to use the key. Create a new RDS instance and choose the new key as the encryption key. Migrate the data into RDS. Option E, create a new customer-managed key in AWS KMS, importing the new key material. Create a new RDS instance, choosing the new key as the encryption key. Deactivate the KMS key following the RDS instance creation. Migrate the data into RDS. Choose the best answer before the reveal. Commit to it now. The answer is option D. Exam logic. You can only import key material into customer-managed KMS keys, not AWS-managed ones. This allows you to use an external HSM for RDS encryption. Question 11 of 12. A security engineer has been asked to review an Amazon S3 bucket policy to determine if the data is properly secured against public access. The policy statement is as follows. Option A. What should the response be from the security engineer? Option B. Is this bucket policy sufficient to ensure that the data is not publicly accessible? Option C. IAM user policies will need to be checked to determine if public access is granted through these policies. Option D. The bucket policy will block all access from public IP addresses and will only allow connections from the specified private CIDR. Option E. The S3 bucket ACL and object ACLs will need to be checked to determine if public access is possible. Option F. The bucket policy does not block access from public IP addresses, regardless of the bucket ACL and object ACL settings. Choose the best answer before the reveal. Commit to it now. The answer is option E. Exam logic. S3 bucket policies can be overridden by bucket or object ACLs, which must also be checked to ensure no public access is granted. The exam rule is to check all policy layers for public access, not just the bucket policy. Question 12 of 12. A new employee is joining a security team. The employee initially requires access to manage Amazon DynamoDB, Amazon RDS, and Amazon CloudWatch. All security team members are added to the Security Team IAM group that provides additional permissions to manage all other AWS services. The team lead wants to limit the permissions the new employee has access to until the employee takes on additional responsibilities, and then be able to easily add permissions as required, eventually providing the same access as all other security team employees. Option A. How can the team lead limit the permissions assigned to the new user account whilst minimizing complexity? Option B. Create an IAM account for the new employee in a dedicated account. Use cross-account access to manage resources. Limit the permissions on the cross-account access role to only allow management of Amazon DynamoDB, Amazon RDS, and Amazon CloudWatch. When the employee takes on new management responsibilities, add permissions to the cross-account access IAM role. Option C. Create an IAM account for the new employee. Create a new IAM group for the employee and add a permissions policy that grants access to manage Amazon DynamoDB, Amazon RDS, and Amazon CloudWatch. When the employee takes on new management responsibilities, add the additional services to the IAM policy. Option D.
Create an IAM account for the new employee and add the account to the security team IAM group. Use a service control policy, SCP, to limit the maximum available permissions to Amazon DynamoDB, Amazon RDS, and Amazon CloudWatch. When the employee takes on new management responsibilities, remove the SCP. Option E. Create an IAM account for the new employee and add the account to the security team IAM group. Set a permissions boundary that grants access to manage Amazon DynamoDB, Amazon RDS, and Amazon CloudWatch. When the employee takes on new management responsibilities, add the additional services to the permissions boundary IAM policy. Choose the best answer before the reveal. Commit to it now.
The answer is option E. Exam logic. Permissions boundaries allow a user to stay in the group while limiting their permissions. It's more efficient than creating separate groups for limited access.